by a week. Guess what? For a dental treatment. His aide said the president had initially traveled to the UK last week to attend the coronation of King Charles III. He was scheduled to return to Nigeria this week but will now stay back at the behest of his dentist, who has started attending to him. The president's extended stay in London has sparked criticism from some Nigerians who say that he should prioritize domestic issues and address the security challenges facing the country. Mr. Buhari has traveled to the UK on a number of occasions throughout his presidency for undisclosed medical reasons amid speculation about his health. He is scheduled to hand over to President-elect Bola Tinubu on the 29th of May, and that update was given by the presidential spokesperson Femi Adesina, who issued a statement late on Tuesday night. And in Tunisia, authorities have recovered 14 bodies of migrants off the coast of the country in the last 24 hours. The migrants were from sub-Saharan Africa countries attempting to reach the shores of Italy, according to local media. They did not specify whether the 14 migrants were traveling on the same boat or in separate groups. Tunisia has become a main route for migrants who wish to make it to Europe, with United Nations figures showing at least 12,000 migrants who landed on Italy's shores this year had left from Tunisia. That figure was just 1,300 in the same period last year. And we head over to Zimbabwe, where the government will no longer be forced to disclose information to the public about its procurement of medicines, medical and construction equipment, according to a gazette by President Emerson Mnangagwa. Critics say the move violates the rights of freedom of information entitled Special Procurement in the Public Interest Health Sector. The gazette lists biomedical equipment, vehicle including ambulances, laboratory equipment, chemicals, hospital protective equipment as of national interest, adding that details of their disposal and procurement shall not be publicly disclosed. Zimbabwe's public healthcare sector is poorly funded and often has shortages of syringes and antibiotics. It is not clear whether the government is planning a large-scale expenditure in the health sector without having to disclose the details. State procurements worth over $1 million are usually required to go to public tender. The main opposition party, the Citizens Coalition for Change, called for transparency and questioned why the acquisition of public property should be hidden. It said that secrecy would promote corruption. Okay, and then we just move over. I'll come back to that story because I have so much to say about that. And in South Africa, the opposition party, Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, has asked for donations to finance the revolution ahead of party's 10th anniversary. On its social media pages, the EFF on Monday shared a recorded video of its leader, Julius Malema, asking for donations from the peace-loving South Africans and revolutionaries from the African continent and the diaspora. Mr. Malema asked for donations of cows, vegetables and groceries, t-shirts and buses for the anniversary celebration at FNB Stadium south of Johannesburg on the 29th of July. The EFF listed its success in the last 10 years as motivation for people to donate, with Mr. Malema asking as little as 10 rands, that is equivalent around 54 cents to finance the party. Okay. And in South Sudan, on Monday, the country said it will waive visa fees for foreign nationals fleeing conflict across its border with neighboring Sudan. South Sudan's Directorate of Civil Registry, Nationality, Passport and Immigration Director General Ate Marol Bier has directed immigration officers at all border crossing points with Sudan not to charge visa fees to foreigners. He said that foreigners who opt to stay in the country as refugees will be registered by authorities with support from humanitarian agencies. He said most foreign nationals fleeing conflict in neighboring Sudan are being hosted in Rank County and Palosh areas of Upper Nile State. South Sudan Humanitarian Affairs and Disaster Management Minister Albino Akol Attack say the country has so far received more than 50,000 people who crossed into the country since the Sudan conflict erupted on April the 15th in 2000. And the 23 United Nations Human Rights Commission for Refugee has warned of a deepening humanitarian crisis due to the unexpected influx of people into South Sudan, which is already hosting 2.2 million internally displaced people of its own. And the latest from the heavy rains in the Democratic Republic of Congo, there has been further landslide caused by the heavy rainfall in the east of the DRC. 6 people are confirmed dead and more than 100 workers are feared trapped inside a mine which collapsed near the town of Rubaya in North Kivu province. Floods and mudslides that hit 2 villages on the shores of Lake Kivu last week are known to have killed at least 400 people. Thousands more are reported missing. In an interview, a government spokesperson, Patrick Muyaya, defended the handling of the crisis and criticism of the authorities being too slow to respond and using mass graves to bury the dead. And back home here in Kenya, a court document filed by police investigating Kenyan cult deaths says autopsies showed some organs were missing from bodies exhumed from shallow graves. It said that it believed that trade on human body organs has been well coordinated involving several players, but Chief Government Pathologist Johansen Odor had earlier ruled out organ harvesting following autopsies of 112 bodies in his final report on Friday. Interior Minister Kithure Kindiki said on Tuesday that on the issue of missing body parts theory, I think investigations are still going on. I'm advised by the experts that we should not preempt the investigations. It is a theory we are investigating. Okay, the government is investigating, end of quote. Most of the victims, including children, died of starvation, but some were strangled, beaten or suffocated, according to the pathologist. The main suspect in the case, Pastor Paul Mackenzie, is alleged to have encouraged his followers to fast to death in order to go to heaven. He has previously denied to have forced them into the fast. A fresh round of exhumations in the expansive 800-acre forest in the coastal Kilifi County resumed on Tuesday in an exercise supervised by the Interior Minister. The Kenya Red Cross says that 360 people had been reported missing, while the authorities say at least 60 others have been rescued alive. And we end in Tunisia. A naval guard killed 4 people and injured 9 others on Tuesday as he tried to reach a synagogue on the island of Jerba. The attack happened during an annual pilgrimage to the Griba Synagogue, Africa's oldest, which brings hundreds of people from Europe and Israel each year. Tunisia's Interior Ministry said in a statement that the assailant first shot another guard at a naval installation and took his ammunition before heading to the synagogue. The attacker then fired at security personnel outside the synagogue, killing 1 officer, and 2 visitor security guards then shot the attacker dead. Tunisia's foreign ministry identified the 2 visitors killed as Tunisian and a French national. The synagogue was the site of the 2002 truck bombing that killed 21 tourists. Okay, and that is the latest news from across the continent of Africa. And of course, the U.S. issued a statement in regarding to that shooting at the synagogue. The United States deplores, I'm quoting, the attack in Tunisia, coinciding with the annual Jewish pilgrimage that draws faithful to the El Griba synagogue from around the world. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said in a statement, "We express condolences to the Tunisian people and commend the rapid action of Tunisian security forces." End of quote. It's about 26 minutes past 10 a.m. here in Nairobi. It's African time. A very good morning to you. So, all right, so that the killing there. All right, let's just move on to, let's head over to, South Sudan has decided to waive visa fees for those fleeing from Sudan, which is a great thing. But I'm just wondering, why are you waiving now? Most of the people have left. Most of the foreigners have left Sudan anyway. So what have you been, were you collecting these visa fees in the middle of a conflict, a crisis? The people who are running to South Sudan? Because if you've just issued this statement yesterday of waiving away this visa fees. That means somebody was busy collecting these fees. So anyway, but I think it's a good gesture, whichever kind of help that can be given to these people who are fleeing that conflict in Sudan. I think it is a welcome move. All right, and in South Africa, Julius Malema, he's saying the party is meant to be celebrating its 10th anniversary, and yesterday he made an appeal. He made an appeal for the peace-loving South Africans and revolutionaries from the African continent, and he's saying the party needs all kinds of donations and support, and he's asking for donations of cows. Why? Are we planning a barbecue, or are we planning to start a ranch? Why do you need cows? What is it? It's a very interesting donations. Or are you given these donations and then maybe you will distribute among, to those who are in need? What is the purpose of these cows specifically? I really think I'm very curious to find out who asks for cows as a donation, especially a political party like. Okay, so maybe EFF is planning to have a huge barbecue to mark its 10-year anniversary. That could be it. And so maybe as they have those barbecues, they also intend to be also healthy, and so he's also asking for vegetables to supplement that. Make sure while you have your barbecue, you're also having some breakfast. I'm just trying to think, why would he ask for these things as donations, okay? My mind is just trying to be creative with and understand. And he's asking for groceries and T-shirts and buses. I guess the T-shirts with EFF colors, I guess, and buses for the anniversary celebration. So I'm assuming because he's asking this vegetables, any sort of grocery, and the cows, perhaps maybe he intends to donate. I'm not sure, but I guess it's a very interesting. It's a very interesting kind of donation that EFF is asking for. So I'll just read part of what he was saying while Phil, that video that was pre-recorded that played yesterday, on Monday actually. We call upon all of you to make donations to the EFF because we must finance our own revolution. If we don't finance our own revolution, counter-revolutionaries will hijack it. But now, if you're financing your revolution, what do you need cows for, Malema? What is the significance of this? I can understand the T-shirts and the buses that maybe will transport the supporters to this stadium. I think the celebrations will be taking place at the FNB Stadium, south of Johannesburg, on the 29th of July. So I do understand the T-shirts and the buses. The red T-shirts are for the supporters, and the buses to ferry any person who'd like to attend these celebrations. But these others, I don't get, unless you'll use that opportunity to also give back. I don't get it, because if we are financing the revolution, then I don't see how the cows will come into play. Yeah, and this messaging is just, it's very manipulative if you just read through it. In logic and critical thinking, it's called a fallacy of pity. You appeal to people's emotions. And even what does not make sense, you try to make it make sense. I'm sure there are people who support Malema and who will be happy to donate their cows. I don't know if the goats and sheep are allowed, but the sheep are allowed. But but he was specific. He wants cows. I almost spoke there in Kiswahili. Okay. And Zimbabwe. Like, is there a time we will just sit here? Yesterday I had some good news. Zimbabwe has discovered some oil and gas in the northern part of the country. So that is some good news. But also the upside of that is that it will attract some other chaos with it. Australian farm, I think, I discovered these hydrocarbons. I was talking to you about it yesterday. Actually, I didn't go too much into the details of it. But now, the Zimbabwean government is saying that it will no longer be forced to disclose information to the public about its procurement of medicines, medical and construction equipment, according to a gazette by President Emmerson Mnangagwa. And critics say the move violates the rights to freedom of information. So this gazette that was titled Special Procurements in the Public Interest, you cannot put public interest in a procurement that is not considerate of the public interest. These are procurements made for the public health sector of Zimbabwe. And we know during COVID-19, one of your children, I think your sons or somebody else, was mentioned to have heard benefited illegally in procurement of certain items there during COVID-19. It could have been PPEs or something like that, I can't recall. But that scandal was there. And then we know how the public sector is ailing and how corruption also has become very endemic there in Zimbabwe. So on top of that, what you're telling the Zimbabwean public is that they will not know how much biomedical equipment the government has purchased for the public hospitals. How many vehicles, including ambulances, laboratory equipment, chemicals, hospital protective equipment, and you're saying this will not be disclosed because now you have securitized this issue and you're saying it's out of national interest. Wrong. National interest demands that you make the public know what is happening and how their money is being spent. This is you're opening space for corruption. You're opening space for kickbacks. You're opening space for mismanagement of public funds. You're opening space, for a tendering process that will only go to benefit a few. There's a reason why there are laws that governs public tenders and public procurements. So if now you are putting this procurement, these are medical equipment. If it was anything to do with the Department of Defense, the military of the country, I can understand, because that is a very sensitive issue and out of security concerns and national interest, maybe that the public should not know so much what happens. But medical equipment, why wouldn't the public know if Zimbabwean government has procured, say, for instance, 10 ambulances or 100 ambulances that they have been distributed? 3 has been taken in a certain district, 10 has been given to a certain constituency and all that. These are matters of public interest. So you can't put up this bogus gazette notice and then you title it Special Procurement in the Public Interest in the Health Sector. No, this cannot be for the public interest. This is for the interest of the few who want to fleece and continue abating and enabling corruption in Zimbabwe, and you don't want to create a platform that will allow for the people to know what goes on within and how the government is handling their money. So President Mnangagwa, you've been making great progress, and I see the effort you're making, especially when it comes to this international community. And I think with all the difficulties and the challenges Zimbabwe goes through, you are doing your best to handle this. But this is ill-advised, this is out of order, and this is not done out of goodwill. You cannot title this Special Procurement in the Public Interest. No public interest has been represented by this gazette notice and this decision that your government has taken. Why wouldn't you not want the Zimbabwean public to know how much laboratory equipment, the chemicals and all that? These are things that should be made public. This should be a matter of public record. Why are you stifling information? Why are you violating some of these very important, freedoms? This, as much as whatever reasons that has made you make, this gazette notice or the government to take this decision, even if it was for the good, obviously, with all the history and in the back of that investigation that we saw on Al Jazeera and how the government has been mentioned in a couple of, the leadership there, it has to do with corruption. And then now you're making such decisions, even as much as the investigations, the allegations, you're yet to do your own investigations and prove and counter what was brought to us by Al Jazeera. But people can link this and say, there is a possibility that whatever Al Jazeera, the investigation, it could absolutely be right, because when you see a government make such poor decisions and then try to stifle access to information on things that concern the public and has the audacity to make this a national interest, to securitize this, okay? Because that's what they do. Anything they want to, not just in Zimbabwe, but a lot of times in Africa and some other parts of the world, anything they want to protect the issues at or stifle some certain rights, what they do is they securitize this matter and now becomes a matter of national security. So because it's a matter of national security, securitization of issues, so now we cannot discuss it. Now the public cannot access it. This is unacceptable and this is ill-advised, and I hope that but you have already passed this Gazette notice, but I hope that somebody will go to court and challenge this. I don't know if the institutions, their functions, but somebody should go to court and just challenge this nonsense. Procurement, public procurement should be made public, unless in sensitive departments like defense, army. I can understand to some large extent. I can understand. We don't want to know how much or what kind of new weapons and all that has been secured or whatever it is, because of a lot of that is very high sensitive information. So I can understand why some of that is made private in many countries, the procurement and matters to do with security. I get that. But in hospitals, what is wrong with you telling us how many syringes the government has procured for its public hospitals and medicine, and who is delivering these tenders? And to know that your son, president, was mentioned in 2020, is it in 20 or 21, over the COVID scandal, and I think somebody that was close to him. I think this is ill-advised. This is bad decision, and we should probably rethink this. So the Zimbabwe's public healthcare sector is poorly funded and often has shortages of syringes and antibiotics. It is not clear whether the government is planning large-scale expenditure in the health sector without having to disclose the details. I think if we're planning a large-scale expenditure in the public sector, I think that is something that Zimbabweans will welcome. I don't think Zimbabweans will get mad at you because you've allocated enough money for a very ailing industry that actually deserves much funding. We've seen the nurses and doctors from Zimbabwe fleeing that country, and a lot of them are working in the UK and elsewhere because of the poor status of the public health care. Okay? So if the government is planning to allocate more funds, I think that is something that Zimbabweans will be happy and will celebrate. We've seen Zimbabweans being mistreated in South Africa when they go there to seek for health care because they are unable to get that back at home. There's not enough funding for that sector. And we've seen several cases that I've sat here and I've talked about. Zimbabweans, when they go to South African hospitals, they refuse to be treated. The doctors there refuse to treat them, and they're saying they've become a burden to the public health care in South Africa. So if the government decides that it wants to put more money into the health sector in Zimbabwe, that is not something that should be done in secrecy. That is something that I'm sure most Zimbabweans who are well-meaning will appreciate, because that sector needs money. Public health sector in Zimbabwe and other public health sectors across Africa was exposed, the poor funding, the poor status in these facilities. So this will be a welcome move. So state procurements worth $1 million are usually required to go to public tender, and that is according to the law. So why are you changing this? Why are you changing this? You have to have some level of transparency. I think that is just part of good governance. That is just part of good governance. So I hope that perhaps President Mnangagwa, you rethink this decision, because those who are advising you don't have good advisors. That's what we are discovering now. You don't have good advisors. What you have are rent seekers who are there to cut deals and benefit themselves. That's what you have there. People closer to you who are out there just wanting to know how much can we fleece Zimbabwe. if you watched that investigative piece by Al Jazeera, you will see how much Zimbabweans are losing because of few individuals who are selfish and who are taking advantage of whatever it is going on in Zimbabwe. So what you have surrounded with yourself with President Mnangagwa are people who don't mean well for your country. Rent seekers who are there to see what can we get, how can we benefit, how can we bloat these tenders and make as much money as we can and fleece the people of Zimbabwe. And that is sad. And the fact that you're colluding with such people to make these scrupulous laws to continue to enable and allow for corruption to thrive, that is unfortunate, and I am disappointed for some I was with the recent events, I was a bit hopeful over some changes and all that, but it appears the more steps we make forward, we make too many others backward. So we are never moving in direction that allows for change and for development in Zimbabwe there, and that is really indeed very, very unfortunate. Okay. So, but for matters, medical reasons, this story of Muhammadu Buhari, ridiculous to the core. So, President Buhari, okay, first of all, this week, I've updated you on Monday, I think yesterday as well, how many killings and abductions have happened in Nigeria. President Buhari left to the UK, or for the UK, to attend the coronation that happened on Saturday. There was a huge celebration, I think, on Sunday, if I'm not wrong. I think because on Saturday evening they were hosted. I think they were. And before the coronation, they were hosted as well by the king, right? So that ended. But President Buhari is still in the UK. And the reason why he has extended his stay, despite all the emergencies that require his attention back at home, is that he had to stay back at the behest of his dentist, who has started attending to him. What are you getting? Some new teeth? What is it? And I'm sure those are services you can get in Nigeria. You have a dentist in the UK. That is where you go for your dental work, for your dental visits in the UK. A whole president of a state. And then you wonder why we have poor health sectors, and we have leaders who are not interested in addressing the issue of poor health sectors in Africa. If you have a whole head of state without shame saying that he overstayed his visit in London because he had to see his dentist, that means he goes to London for his dental checkup or dental whatever. Okay, to be told how to use a floss and to check and to clean and to do all that stuff. Okay, that normally if you visit your dentist on a regular. And he has to stay there and have that checked. Really? And then his media spokesperson, the presidential spokesperson, has the audacity to issue out this ridiculous. It's never a dull moment in this continent to issue this ridiculous statement saying, the specialist requests to see the president in another 5 days for a procedure already commenced. What is he having? Did they put, what is that? Surely, he can't have braces. And the last I checked, I think President Buhari has really nice teeth. I can see why now. He goes to London to have them, cleaned. I don't know. Why are you in London to see a dentist? Do you not have all these qualified doctors from Nigeria that leave the brain drain that Nigeria is experiencing? The best doctors, especially in that health sector, are leaving. And it's just maybe a month ago that the UK said it will stop getting any more doctors and nurses from Nigeria because of the brain drain. Okay, but it used to get the UK, where you're going. I'm sure it's one of perhaps the Nigerians there that could not get proper employment at home that is even maybe taken care of in the UK. The UK stopped, having more of Nigerians doctors because it was concerned about the brain drain and how many of them were fleeing to look for opportunities in the UK. That means you have very qualified people in your country. President Buhari, shame on you. that you're having a dentist appointment in London, you cannot come back to address the urgent issues, the security problems, and all these things that Nigerians are dealing with back at home. But instead you chose to stay back and have a dental visit, and whatever is going to happen, this procedure, what are you getting? what kind of dental work are you getting from there? What is it? But I believe whatever service you went seeking for in the UK, you can get that back at home, because you have Nigerians who are qualified, who can do a fantastic job, and who are sought after across the world because of their expertise and because of the qualifications that they have. Because a country like the UK, they're very stringent. They wouldn't be having all these doctors and nurses go there if they didn't think they really were qualified. Okay? But you don't have even enough confidence in your own country and the people that the schools that you fund and your own specialists in your own country that are working in that country, that you're going to seek the same. It's ridiculous. Like, it's really something else. So the president's extended stay in London has sparked criticism, as it should, from Nigerians who say that he should prioritize domestic issues and address the security challenges facing the country. And absolutely join my voice in saying the same. Mr. Buhari has traveled to the UK on a number of occasions throughout his presidency for undisclosed medical reasons amid speculation about his health. He is scheduled to hand over to President-elect Bola Tinubu on the 29th of May. And this President-elect Bola Tinubu also had left Nigeria, was it even before that case was filed in March? And he went to a visit. He said he went to rest in Europe. What is the obsession with the Nigerian leaders and Europe? What is it that you go looking for there in Europe? And there were speculations that he also went for some medical reasons, but he came back and said, no, I'm alive, first of all. Now, if you have to keep telling us you're alive, then there's a problem. And I am well. And you have to keep reminding us that you're well and you're healthy. Then we're putting some dots in that, because healthy person we can see in how they talk, in how they walk, in how they carry themselves in public. You don't need to tell us you're healthy. We can see that. But there has been questions that have been raised over your health. So you have one outgoing president who has perennially had health issues, which is not a bad thing, but he's been perennially out of the country and a lot of time missing out on his responsibilities as a head of state. And you're having another one incoming who has probably potential, will have the same, medical leaves and will not be in the country to handle his responsibilities, because he'll be most likely be out of the country every now and then to go, as he says, relax or whatever it is that he calls it. So I think these are things that Nigerians need to sit down and think about very seriously. I think this is very serious, and I think this is very shameful, President Buhari. You cannot be seeking for dental services in London. Shame on you, because Nigerian doctors and dentists are the best in the world, in this continent, and they can offer the same service. If you had hurried back home as you took care of the issues and also had your dental procedures or whatever it is that you're having done, that would have been nice. At least the people of Nigeria would have, appreciated your presence back at home. Okay, but you're out there in London just doing whatever it is that you're doing. It's ridiculous. And of course, I think President Buhari really checked out from being president. He's just waiting for the coronation day on the 29th. But he checked out being the president many, many months ago. He did not even show up for the inauguration of his second term. You remember? He never showed up. So that was a good sign that it was going to be a very bumpy and, term for him. And it were. And a lot of times Nigerians did not feel his presence and his leadership in many occasions when that was really, really needed. Okay, so he's been checked out. He's been aloof. He's not been in in touch with what is really happening in Nigeria. So I think he's been counting the months, the years. Now he's just counting days, and he will be happy to just go rest with his new teeth. I don't know if they're giving him new teeth. I don't know. I don't know what they're doing, but he'll be resting with his new smile, I suppose. Ridiculous, but anyway. Okay. So let me see. So there was a protest that happened in Sudan. A section of the population was protesting in support of the National Army. And these are people from Beja, tribesmen. And what they're demanding here, which I hope nobody really listens to some of the demands. I understand the protest, them in support of the military, that's fine. But now they're demanding weapons to fight alongside the army. That is a bad idea. That is what created Janjaweed and now RSF that has become a problem. So military leader there in Sudan, I know this could be tempting for you because now these tribesmen, the Beja tribesmen, are now showing support, and they're asking that you may equip them to help you fight, to help the army fight RSF. Bad idea. You don't solve one security problem by creating another one. President Omar al-Bashir tried solving that security problem in Darfur, and he left another bigger security problem that now has caused security problem for Sudan, and the effects of that will be felt for a very, 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 very long time. So army, as much as they might be well-meaning and they are supporting you, don't you dare arm these people who are not army officials. Do not give them weapons to fight alongside you. Otherwise, they will regroup and form another group parallel, and so you'll have several other paramilitary groups in Sudan. So that is a bad idea. That is a bad idea. Let the army of the country take care of the security of the country. Okay, when you start bringing out and arming these militia groups or these tribesmen or whatever it is, then now you are creating a bigger problem. And I'm just waiting for that to happen also in Somalia. I've sat here and I've talked about it for a long time. We know the current administration is also using the local militia, clan militia, to fight Al-Shabaab. It will turn around. It will turn around and pose another insecurity in Burkina Faso as well, in Democratic Republic of Congo as well. There's countries that are using militias, especially the ones that are working alongside the government forces or the government side. They turn around because you equip them with intelligence, you equip them with the weapons, and you don't know what they do in their own little cocoons, what kinds of meetings and conversations they're having and what they're planning. And so the security of a country should only be handled by the official channels. And for right now in Sudan, that is the military of Sudan and maybe the police forces and, that organized formal, platform of the security in Sudan. So don't even be tempted to arm these people to fight along you. Because also after all this has been done, now this would have created another ethnic tension that might now, spark another ethnic cleansing or ethnic conflict. So just I hope that nobody listens to them and nobody nobody arms them. There's not been any good news from the mediation process from Jeddah, which I'm really surprised that as I was reading this news and I stopped to really understand. The United Nations has sent its official UN humanitarian chief Martin Griffiths went to Jeddah on Sunday and has already left. So this means that the UN was supporting that mediation process in Jeddah that also was being supported by United States. Why can't the UN show that support to IGAD? Because by it sending one of its officials there, that means the UN is supporting that process. Otherwise, it couldn't go there. And then Guterres was in the country meeting with President William Ruto in regards to the IGAD process. So which is which? UN? You're now bringing complications. You can't be sending your envoy in Jeddah, and then UN Chief Secretary General is in Kenya to speak about the same thing. The UN should support the process by IGAD and these other teams and actors. That is where we need to put all our effort in and support one strong mediation process, and that will give us a quick resolution, I believe. Not the easiest, but it can make it a bit more easy and efficient, because it's only from one point, and we're dealing with issues from one point. But if you're having all these talks around, then nothing will get done. We'll sit here hoping talks are being done in Jeddah. IGAD is still not convening its meeting here, and perhaps hoping to hear what is the progress happening there. And then Cairo and the Arab League also in Egypt. We are, so it's a lot of confusion. So this double speak and this other interests on the sides, I think, will act will defeat the purpose of finding a quick resolution. But that is just my personal opinion. Okay, I think I'm done now. I want to thank you so much for your time this morning. Enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you some other time. My name is Miriam Ogutu. Enjoy your time. Bye-bye.